Part 51. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 502. A wrong shot. That doesn't exist. I'm a proud elf archer. Su Jingjing said with a proud smile. The arrow that shone with brown light turned the soil at Wang Bronzebeard's feet into a wet swamp the moment it hit the ground. Wang Bronzebeard's steps were too big. When he saw the ground under his feet suddenly turned into a swamp, he was so shocked that his hammer shook, even the thunder that kept falling above Yilin's head was deflected. Pity. His god descending from the earth figure who is immune to all negative states was obtained at the expense of flexible movement. Even if he noticed the swamp under his feet, he had no time to break and immediately stepped on it, sinking deeply into it. In the swamp, 10 meters away, his most beloved horse, Valentine, was already being beaten by everyone, and it let out shrill screams one after another. After changing the starting hand posture, Oda Mai's whole style is like a different person. At this moment, she was like a monster hunter who was walking around the monsters nimbly. Every blow she made seemed to have completely predicted the giant griffin's posture after being hit by the knife, and accurately hit the giant griffin's weak point. Every blow hit the key point. Parts. Step and chop. Oda Mai made an ordinary slash with her sword. 2 cuts with the sword. Kazaya cuts. Behead against the cassock. Air blade slash. Air blade spin. After a few quick cuts, the kodaki in Oda Mai's hand burst out with a strong red light, as if it had turned into substance and became part of the sword's light. Sharpen the edge. The corners of Oda Mai's mouth raised slightly, looking very happy while chopping. After receiving another severe blow, the giant griffin kept wailing and lowered its scarred head in front of Mai Oda. Suddenly, Oda Mai flicked her wrist, and a long silk thread fell on the head of the giant griffin. That thread pulled Oda Mai's body forward. Oda Mai's smooth little leather shoe stepped on the griffin's head, and with the force of the step, it jumped up high. Oda Mai's explosive figure, like a little cheetah, froze for a moment like a compressed spring in mid-air. Snap, 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 snap. The long knife falls. Air blade Kabuto, climb the dragon. In an instant, the scarred forehead of the giant griffin was driven into the soil by Oda Mai's knife, and blood exploded on the top of its head, and it was immediately struck bald. Hiss. Guzi, Su Anjing, and Yulin couldn't help but take a deep breath when they saw Oda Mai slashing so brutally against a monster more than 10 times her size with a cheerful expression. Where is the boss here? This is clearly a one-sided massacre. So cruel. Take the knife. Oyehi slash. Ding. After driving the giant griffin into the ground, Mai Oda did not hesitate in her movements and executed the second set of combos smoothly. Bang 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 bang. Beat King Bronzebeard. When Yilin saw Oda Mai using the new style flying beast taming style, she completely beat the giant griffin to the point where it lost all its temper. He immediately directed others in the team channel to beat up King Bronzebeard. Wang Bronzebeard, who was stuck in the quagmire, was dumbfounded. It doesn't make sense. His hammer enchantment ability is obviously a skill that randomly releases thunder strikes on all targets within a range. How can it be a random strike AoE skill and become a single target attack? Wang Bronzebeard never expected that this vicious-looking scum of the tribe could actually attract all his thunder. Damn tribe ah! Wang Bronzebeard raised his hammer, and the light of lightning surrounding the hammer dimmed a bit. He's wilted. Yilin, who had been struggling to dodge the lightning strikes above his head, was keenly aware of the changes in Wang Bronzebeard. In this ever-changing battle situation, within the time it took Oda Mai to skillfully execute a set of combos, Yilin's 10-death body was killed 3 times. At this time, the swamp under Wang Bronzebeard's feet turned into solid ground again after a flash of light. Wang Bongxiu said nothing, his face was ferocious and angry, he turned around and ran away. Chase. Su Jingjing pointed his longbow and shot arrows with brown light on Wang Bronzebeard's escape route. Swamp arrows, 9 consecutive shots. King Bronzebeard, who had just pulled out his legs from the swamp, fell into the quagmire again. It has to be said that Su Anjing fully played the role of an assistant in this boss battle. When Wang Bronzebeard is in the state of God descending to earth, he does not take any negative status, and even Yilin's disaster ridden is ineffective against him. However, the swamp arrow shot by Su Jingjing with the power of the elf archer was not a skill released against any target. What she is targeting is the terrain. A skill that can change the terrain. Yilin's former teammate Ningyu also had similar skills of this type. However, Ningyu's skills require contact with both hands. Maybe Quiet's ability is released remotely. Talent. In the air, Yilin exploded with hand speed, harvesting the Griffin Knights while observing the battle situation on the ground, and nodded secretly. He is increasingly planning to tie Su Anjing to death in the Apocalypse Guild. Such a useful talent cannot be allowed to run away in vain. 30 years of anger to the west of the river, 30 years of anger to the east of the river. The Dam tribe is humiliated today, and I, Muraden King Bronzebeard, will pay back 100-fold one day. Wang Tongxiu's eyes were about to burst. As he ran, he uttered harsh words as loud as thunder. Immediately afterwards, Wang Bronzebeard raised his hammer high, and a bolt of thunder fell on his head. In the blink of an eye, Wang Bronzebeard's body was filled with electric light, as if he had taken some medicine. He forcefully pulled his sunken legs out of the mire and ran wildly in the direction of the Alliance Legion's formation. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, Yilin and others would never have imagined that King Bronzebeard could run so fast with his size. Oops. He even ignored the swamp this time. Su Jingjing's expression changed drastically. Boom, boom, boom. Wang Bronzebeard was like a galloping bull at this moment. He didn't even care about his beloved Valentina and wanted to escape. While Muraden King Bronzebeard was escaping, Oda Mai had already hacked the giant griffin to death with 3 sets of skillful flying beast taming style combos. The poor griffin knight, with no one to ride on him, was left with only his mount, unable to display his original strength at all, so he died aggrievedly at the hands of Mai Oda. When Wang Bongxiu was escaping, he was still in the God descended to earth posture without any negative status. The dog's expression was crazy, like a mad dog, chasing after Wang Bongxiu and flying behind him, but he was unable to catch up with Wang Bongxiu's escape. Pace. Xiao Wu. Old Pan. Suddenly, Yilin looked at Wang Bronzebeard walking away, and her heart moved. In a hurry, she uttered an instruction on the team channel that made the others confused. Hearing the command from Yilin on the team channel, Guzi and Su Anjing were slightly startled. Lao Pan? What's the matter with Lao Pan at this time? But Mai Oda understood. She and Yiren could not be said to have a close relationship, but during this period, Oda Mai and Yiren fought side by side many times and became as close as comrades in arms. After Yiren yelled this in the team channel, the two people's eyes briefly met in the air and on the ground, and Oda Mai immediately understood Yiren's plan. If you are in doubt, go to Lao Pan. Batoryu, Yukiguri. Oda Wu stepped behind Pan Genji, held the knife in his backhand, the muscles of both arms suddenly swelled, and slashed Pan Genji in the back with the back of the knife. Pan Genji was chopped away. Go. Old Pan. In mid-air, Yilin pushed Lao Pan behind his butt with a palm from the air. Lao Pan was like an exploding rocket, drawing a gorgeous parabola in the air, speeding up and flying towards the escaping Wang Bronzebeard. Go Zi and Su Jingjing watched helplessly as Lao Pan flew towards Wang Bronzebeard. Stunned. How can you play like this when fighting a boss? What is this? Human cannonballs? In mid-air, Lao Pan was dancing and shouting "Oh wipe wipe wipe." The movement was so loud that no matter how deaf Wang Bronzebeard was to what was going on behind him, He could not fail to notice the movement coming from Lao Pan behind him. In an instant, Wang Bongxiu smiled coldly. Taking advantage of the effect of the God Descends to Earth skill, Wang Bongxiu was fearless, turned his head, and hit Lao Pan with a hammer. Damn tribe ouch! Right now. A strange scene happened. Perhaps it was because Wang Bongxiu suddenly turned his head and swung the hammer behind him while he was running, causing his upper and lower body to lose balance, or maybe it was at this moment that Wang Bongxiu suddenly thought about it and wanted to fight to the death with the damn tribe. Or maybe it's because of Lao Pan's incredible luck. Anyway. No matter what the reason. The running King Bronzebeard suddenly tilted and fell to one side. Without any precaution or hesitation, Wang Bronzebeard lost his balance and fell to the ground. Su Jingjing. Clear. Su Jingjing moved forward quickly and shot 9 arrows in a row. The landing point of the 9 arrows parabola in the air happened to surround Wang Bronzebeard's side, turning everything around Wang Bronzebeard into a quagmire. After Su Anjing changed the terrain at Wang Bongxiu's feet, Yilin, Oda Wu, Wang Tiandi, and Lao Pan swarmed forward. Get down, get down, get down, get down. The screaming Wang Bronzebeard suddenly shrank back after being beaten. He's shriveled again. Su Jingjing exclaimed. Everyone get out of the way. My hands are red, let me do it. After Yilin collected a lot of chaos points, she had been craving for the boss for a long time. The moment Wang Bronzebeard fell to the ground, Yilin abandoned the rest of the Griffin Knights, dodged, flew through the void, and came to Wang Bronzebeard's head. The 5 fingers were slightly curved, and flowing lines were quickly drawn with Wang Bronzebeard as the center. Grasp of Annihilation. Grasp of Annihilation. Grasp of Annihilation. Grasp of Annihilation. Boom boom boom. Yilin opened her bow from left to right, stretched out both hands, and shot 4 grasps of annihilation in succession. The explosion of fire stung everyone's eyes. Oda Wu, Wang Tiandi, and Lao Pan have long been accustomed to Yilin's skills. But Su Anjing, on the other hand, when Yilin burst out with such terrifying output ability in just 2 or 3 seconds, Su Anjing was so shocked that his whole body trembled, and he was speechless for a long time. This is the explosive power of the top 50 spiritual apostles in the district server. What a terrifying psychic energy reserve. Yo. There seemed to be something wrong with the feel of the last shot. In the center of the explosion's flames, a small black dot suddenly appeared. With the small dot as the center, the surrounding space instantly collapsed, shattered, and shrank. In the blink of an eye, everything was annihilated into nothingness. The annihilation effect has been triggered. Yilin looked depressed. She didn't expect to trigger this annihilation effect, which can be called a bug, when she least wanted it to be triggered. He originally wanted to take away King Bronzebeard's chaos value, but under the annihilation effect, everything would turn into nothingness, including the chaos value. There was no kill prompt, no chaos value. After the annihilation, there was only an empty space left there, and even a square pit with smooth mirror-like walls was dug out of the ground. Boom. Just when Yilin thought that she had finally killed the boss but got nothing. A dim hammer fell to the ground. In an instant. Su Jingjing, Go Zi, and Oda Wu were all slightly startled. Dropped equipment. Let's go. Yilin's expression remained unchanged, and with a move of his right hand, the hammer flew towards him and was held in his hand. But suddenly, Yilin's shoulders dropped as she held the hammer, and she was pulled straight to the ground by the heavy hammer. Boom. On the battlefield. Dust billows. Oda Wu, Su Anjing, Wang Tiandi, and Pan Zhenji watched helplessly as Yilin fell from the sky into the earth. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 503. Oda Mai's eyes flashed slightly. She subconsciously held the knife in front of Su Jingjing. Oda Mai had seen Yilin fall to the ground when her spiritual energy was exhausted. In the round of output just now, it seemed that Yulin was paddling the whole time and did not participate in the boss battle in the early stage. But only those with a discerning eye could see that Yulin, with one person's power, was able to hold back the aerial attacks of the entire Griffin Legion at high altitudes, which made it so easy for them to defeat King Bronzebeard. Up in the air. After King Bronzebeard died, the Griffin Legion was stunned for a moment. No one expected that after 3 years of war, the veteran Bronzebeard, the clock-in office worker king, would actually die. There was no precaution at all, which caught all the Alliance forces by surprise. But King Bronzebeard is still dead. Even the man and his mount were dead. 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 Muraden King Bronzebeard died in battle. This tragic news spread throughout both camps at the speed of light. In both camps, loud horn sounds sounded at the same time. That was the clarion call to retreat. Retreat. For the Alliance. Retreat. Everyone, retreat. The dwarves on the Griffin Legion were in tears and wounded. The griffins limped and flapped their wings, leaving the battlefield at extremely fast speeds. Ahem. Oda Mai thought Yulin was dry again. Among her teammates, she was not familiar with Su Jingjing. That's why Oda Mai was subconsciously wary of Su Jingjing, fearing that Su Jingjing had evil intentions. But Oda Mai seems to have forgotten that Su Anjing is now considered a member of the Apocalypse Guild. Killing among members not only has no benefits, but also has corresponding punishments. Moreover, after the version is updated, the relic box will no longer be dropped by killing apostles in the same zone servers, and Su Jingjing has no reason to be dissatisfied. In the smoke and dust, Yulin's coughing sound could be heard. Oda Mai walked in with her sword in hand, only to find a square hammer pressed firmly on the cracked ground. Yulin looked like he was struggling to pull the hammer out of the ground. Oda Mai stepped forward and cast a curious look at Yulin. Why bother trying to compete with a hammer if you have nothing to do? A false alarm. Uncomfortable. Yulin tried to pull out the hammer, but failed. He took a cursory glance at the properties of the hammer and was surprised and happy, but felt even more uncomfortable. Go back first. The hammer turned into dots of light, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into an exquisite card, which Yulin put into the storage space. You actually cheat on equipment openly. Only then did Su Jingjing understand that Yulin's actions of grabbing the boss without changing her expression just now were actually for the hammer. I don't want billion. I'm the president. Forget it, let's talk about it when we get back. Yulin's soft "I am the president" blocked Su Jingjing's next words. Su Jingjing was depressed for a while. But she didn't mean that she was really greedy for the hammer. The hammer looked like it was obviously not something she could use with her agility. She secretly despised Yulin several times and stopped talking. The Union troops retreated. On the battlefield, people are gone and the field is empty. Only corpses littered the ground were left. Yulin's eyes narrowed. On the battlefield, from every corner, there was a lot of light black grievance. It was invisible to the naked eye, but it was absorbed by the grudge on Yulin's forehead. After he put away his hammer, he quickly circled the battlefield and absorbed one round. The progress bar of the second stage of grudge only increased by about 10%. Too little. Yulin frowned, feeling something was wrong. In fact, he absorbed a little bit of resentment in the past 2 days. But compared with the number of deaths on this battlefield, this amount of resentment is really ridiculously small. After pondering for a while, Yulin thought of a possibility that made people laugh or cry. Could it be that 3 full years of clocking in style war have made both sides so mentally exhausted that even resentment is hard to come by? 10 minutes later. When Yulin's team returned triumphantly from the battlefield, the hero-like treatment they imagined did not appear. The orcs were all listless, with their heads drooped, sitting or lying in a scattered manner in the fortress, as if they had lost their souls. That posture, if placed elsewhere, would look like a lovelorn man or woman. The other orcs were unable to communicate, so Yilin simply found the Tauren Sarah Bloodhoof and asked what was going on. "It's over, Moo." When Yilin asked, Sarah Bloodhoof's copper bell-sized eyes seemed to have a look of sadness. Once Muraden King Bronzebeard died, those stingy and unwilling alliances dog will send more powerful generals to this battlefield. At that point, this war won't be so easy. Sarah Bloodhoof revealed the reason for her sorrow. "Can't we just counterattack and go back?" Yilin naturally thought of this once and for all solution. Counterattack? Sarah Bloodhoof stared straight at Yilin with a look that said, "Everyone, come and see the idiot." She exhaled a long stream of hot breath from her nose and sneered, "Win this game battle, what about the future?" In the future? Suddenly, Yilin understood the reason for Sarah Bloodhoof's and even all the orcs' depression. Sarah Bloodhoof did not hide anything and continued, "The war between the Horde and the Alliance will never end." In fact, Sarah Bloodhoof's meaning has been made very clear. The main theme of this world is war. The war between the Horde and the Alliance. This fortress is just an inconspicuous little corner in this world full of artillery fire. After winning this war, they had to join another more cruel war. This is why they live every day like clocking into work, fighting at dawn, and having bonfire banquets at dusk without any complaints. Because the Alliance and the Horde have been fighting and fighting for 3 years inside and outside this fortress. After 3 years of fighting, everyone knows the truth and maybe even developed feelings for each other. And Wang Bongxiu's death is certainly a great blessing. But the world is too big, and there are too many generals in the Alliance. If one King Bronzebeard dies, there may be thousands of King Goldbeards and King Silverbeards who will walk out of the teleportation array and come to this battlefield to continue this endless battle. The end of the war. Yilin floated up, half a head higher than the Tauren Sarah Bloodhoof, and patted her on the shoulder. "Phew, not strong enough." Sarah Bloodhoof looked at Yilin's hand patting her shoulder with dissatisfaction. "Really? Then." Yilin smiled kindly and activated it at full power, condensing an invisible big slap technique. Boom! The whole fortress shook violently. In the corner of the fortress, the sky was filled with dust. Yilin left gracefully. The depressed orcs walked curiously toward the center of the alarming movement. I saw the Tauren general, Sarah Bloodhoof, with her huge body completely hummed into the soil, grinning stupidly. Not only was his expression not angry, but he was extremely happy. It was dark when this short battle ended. Dots of bonfires were lit. The orcs are full of unknowns about tomorrow, and they are not in the mood to have a party tonight. Yilin glanced at the countdown, there were about 5 hours left. Because Yilin and others overexposed, today's battle ended prematurely. If there are no accidents, this trial should be over. Yilin said to her teammates. Su Xiong and his wife were leaning together, their broken arms had been bandaged by Su Anjing, and they fell asleep, looking very tired. Really? Su Jingjing expressed doubts about Yilin's words and did not dare to completely let down his guard. Before the return, everything is unknown. Oda Mai believed it? Hear the words. She sat down on the ground, holding the knife in her arms, closing her eyes and concentrating. Lao Pan blended into the orc group again, livening up the atmosphere. The dog bit out of nowhere a giant meat bone that was longer than its body. It was so happy that it chewed it, and its expression gradually became abnormal. Su Anjing looked at this group of weirdos who had no sense of crisis and covered his eyes. Is this the lineup of the world's #1 guild? Too casual? Forget about Oda Mai. Combat power is off the charts. That dog and that weird guy with the sunken eyes are obviously not normal, right? After bidding farewell to her teammates for a while, Yilin came to Renjian. When Yilin approached, everyone raised their heads, the madness in their eyes faded, and their expressions were complicated. "Thank you." Ren Jian simply bandaged his arm. His hand was broken after being struck by the lunatic more than a dozen times, and it was still in great pain. If he hadn't figured out the reason why Yilin and others broke their arms, he would never have been able to say thank you. Too brutal. The remaining preparatory apostles who survived had experienced this kind of torture. At this time, they looked at Yilin with fear in their eyes. It's fear. Yilin's expression was calm, and she savored the fear-filled eyes focused on herself. Somehow, Yilin didn't have too many disturbances in her heart about becoming the fear of others, but instead felt strangely calm. Add a friend. Yilin revealed her purpose. Ren Jian's eyes were slightly stunned. He did not expect that the senior person in front of him, whose strength was so terrifying that he was almost inhuman, would take the initiative to add him as a friend. Well, don't want to. Yilin looked at Ren Jian with a dull expression in confusion and repeated it again. Yes. Yes. Oh, good. Ren Jian hurriedly operated the address book and added Yilin to his friend list. I owe you a favor this time. Yilin smiled, said something that made Ren Jian confused, turned around and left, saying as he walked, after you get out alive, if one day you have nowhere to go, you can consider coming to me. Remember, it is the apocalypse. The heaven of the sky, the apocalypse of enlightenment, we are the apocalypse. Watching Yilin's leaving figure, Ren Jian carefully considered Yilin's words. Suddenly. It wasn't until Yilin disappeared into the darkness at the end of his sight that Ren Jian suddenly woke up. What Yilin said just now clearly meant you, not you. Ren Jian looked at the friend list. Half of the list of 100 people had been completely hacked, and only about half were still online. He saw my desire to bring these people together. In an instant, Ren Jian thought about everything he had done in this trial, and he was horrified when he thought about it. The more he thought about the performance of several of their seniors, Ren Jian's palms began to sweat, and he felt complicated. Time passed quietly. In just 3 days, for Yilin, it was just a brief trial. I can't say I was impressed. But what left the deepest impression on Yilin in this world was actually Sarah Bloodhoof's words. The war between the Horde and the Alliance will never end. Yilin and others were just passing by. But they struggled tenaciously and happily in this cruel world. Interesting. Yilin lowered his head and smiled. Countdown, midnight. The main mission is now released, survive on the battlefield for 3 days, mission completed. Get basic reward, death points add 3000. A moment later. Everything was silent. The world freezes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 504. The moment the world froze, all the newcomers who had not experienced such a strange scene raised their heads and looked around, fear gradually receding from their eyes. The noisy world becomes silent in an instant. This is a beautiful scene that not everyone has the opportunity to experience. This is a benefit for survivors and an elusive dream for the deceased. Yilin had already become friends with Ren Jian. Since Ren Jian had a long-term vision and had plans to win over these surviving newcomers, Yilin saw through it and didn't bother to pay attention. This group of newbies is not considered combat power at the moment. But the seeds have been sown, and what can be harvested in the future can only depend on fate. When Ren Jian leaves this trial, he will realize the weight contained in the name Apocalypse. The number 1 guild in the world is not just talk. Recognized as number 1 in the world. Yilin did not hide her strength, so she rose into the air and looked down at the world from a high position. In the distance, behind the undulating mountains, there are solidified firelight, gunpowder smoke, clouds, mist, light, and shadow. In the distant horizon, a majestic monster figure is frozen in the clouds and mist. After simply watching the frozen scenery of the world, Yilin returned to his teammates and quietly waited for their return. The dog patted his bulging belly with satisfaction, lay on his back on the ground with his legs in the air, and had a scumbag smile on his face. I haven't eaten so satisfyingly in a long time. Oda Mai stood up, walked to Yilin, pointed to the palace they walked out of, and asked with doubts on her face, "Don't you want to go and see?" Yilin shook his head, "No need. You think I haven't thought about it before? But when Tada puts us and these newcomers on this battlefield, they must have measured the strength of these newcomers and made reasonable arrangements. But if we interfere too much with the plot trend, the difficulty may increase to the point where even we can't protect ourselves." After Oda Mai pondered for a moment, she nodded slightly, and finally put down the hand that had been holding the scabbard. "And have you noticed that the ghoul Danyanzu who summoned us has never appeared again since the first day? If I guessed correctly, this world battlefield should be very large. There are even passages to other battlefields in the palace. Perhaps, we can even reach other battlefields and intervene to the maximum extent possible in this war that affects the entire world. By then, the difficulty of this trial will not be as simple as normal. Maybe the main mission will be temporarily changed, from survive, to end this war." When Yilin heard Sarah Bloodhoof say those words, she thought of one of the possibilities of increasing the difficulty of subsequent tasks. From the 3-day battle that took place around this fortress, Yilin roughly guessed that the overall military level of this world was definitely not low. If they really want to push forward the plot at all costs and increase the difficulty of the mission to nightmare level or higher, they may not be able to pass this trial given their strength. And Yilin stared at the palace. In perception, it is like a black hole, undetectable. Although it is not stated clearly in the version update details, I have every reason to suspect that in the assistance mode, except for the death point reward, we will not be able to obtain all the rewards related to the clearance evaluation. Otherwise, for it's too unfair for newcomers. Yilin finished speaking. The light was changing in front of Yilin, Oda Wu, Wang Tiandi, Su Jingjing, and Pan Zhenji. As soon as the scene changed, they had disappeared from the fortress and were suspended in a dazzling stream of light. In the pure white waiting space, in front of 4 people and 1 dog, there is a huge fluorescent screen. Oh! After this version update, a lot of things have changed. Yilin was startled for a moment, then said in a strange tone, "This is very down to earth." Su Anjing looked straight at the screen. The various changes after this version update are a novel experience for everyone. Yilin's mood was very complicated. In addition to experiencing novelty, it is also full of doubts. This version update has never happened in another future. In other words, for some unknown reason, the direction of this world has completely collapsed, moving towards another future that is extremely unfamiliar to Yilin. As for whether it is good or bad, Yilin cannot evaluate it before everything happens. On the screen, the performance of 4 people and 1 dog in team mode in the trial was being played in fast forward. Everyone's performance can be said to be quite satisfactory, each has his or her own contribution, and there's not much to say. But as he looked at it, Su Anjing found something was wrong. She discovered that in the past 3 days, when Yilin was outputting her abilities in mid-air, she would fall on the battlefield from time to time and use the chaos to grab something on the ground. After staring at the screen for a while, Su Anjing finally saw clearly what Yilin was fishing for from a certain angle. What the hell? Suddenly, the corners of Su Jingjing's mouth twitched and he shouted, "You actually still have time to get those problematic rare weapons." After being exposed by Su Jingjing's words, Yilin said frankly, "This is 100 rare weapons. If you don't get it, you won't get it for nothing. Whether it can be used will be discussed later." Yilin's natural and shameless behavior left Su Jingjing speechless. After being stunned for 10 seconds, Su Jingjing suddenly remembered Yilin's order to have them cut off their hands, and thought about it with horror. Wait a minute, are you thinking about how to snatch those weapons and let us cut off the newcomer's hand? Yilin was thinking of denying it. This is slander. Nothing. How can it not be possible? On the screen, the performance in the trial is fast-forwarded to completion. In front of them, the settlement after clearing the level also began to appear. The brief discussion ended in vain. Customs clearance evaluation is being calculated. Because you entered the low-level trial in assistance mode, the clearance evaluation, none. No attribute rewards. No random rewards. Hummed. The corners of Yilin's mouth twitched slightly. Really? Guessed it? This assistance model is indeed what he guessed, it is the three nothings model. Without the clearance evaluation, the subsequent random rewards and attribute rewards will certainly not have their share. Settlement with additional customs clearance conditions. The final number of survivors of the Preparation Apostles, 48. Death points gained, 48,000. Wow. The sound of gold coins falling crazily seemed to ring in the ears of Yilin and others. A full 48,000 death point reward. Add a little more, and you can have a rich 10-shot streak. Yilin was thoughtful. Is this what the update details say, adding a mode to quickly obtain death points? No change in level. Current level, LV25. It has been detected that Apostle 1010's body is not damaged and does not require repair. Return. Snowy Mountains. Refuge. Yilin, Wang Tiandi, Pan Zhenji, and Oda Mai reappeared in the conference room. Came back. Mo Rendi was alone, sitting where he was, drinking the melted snow water. The snow water in the cup is no longer steaming. How long have we been gone? Yilin's eyes narrowed and she asked. About an hour. 1 hour. 3 people and 1 dog looked at each other after hearing this. They all saw their own surprise in each other's eyes. In previous trials, no matter how long you stayed in the other world, the time in the real world was always only 1 minute. But this time, it took a full hour. This shows what? After the version update, there are many more detailed changes that are not reflected in the update details. Her power has become weaker. Yilin murmured, but no one could hear him clearly. After returning from Auranos, Yilin understood one thing. That is, the so-called God is not an invincible and immortal existence. God also fails. Will die too. So, when Yilin learned from Su Anjing that Su Xiong and his wife had not come out for 5 minutes after entering the other world, she noticed something strange. But this time they entered the trial, 1 hour passed in the real world. Why? Yilin simply said hello to the others, then came to the snowfield alone, thinking about the series of changes after the version update in the quiet and deserted snowy mountains. A full hour. Yilin used her power armor to resist the severe cold. While thinking, she also did not forget to exercise her abilities. During this hour, Yilin just sat in the snowy mountains without saying a word. Finally, Yilin raised her head and looked at the vast snowy field, her eyes flickering thoughtfully. First follow the usual practice and sort out the results after the trial. But to be honest, the difficulty of this trial was not high, and there was nothing to organize about everything that happened in the trial. Yilin focused her attention into the storage space. In the space, in addition to the original props and a bunch of miscellaneous items, 100 cards of the same style were piled up in a tall stack, floating quietly. In the corner of the storage space. It's a rare item, so there's nothing special about it. No, there are quite a few. Yilin happily enjoyed herself alone, exuding an aura that was almost like Versailles. He quickly took out one of the scarlet butcher knife and looked at the attributes on it carefully. As expected. Scarlet butcher knife. Grade rare. Effect bloodthirsty killing, For every person stained with blood, you can gain a temporary bonus of add 1% to basic strength and agility attributes, up to a maximum of 20%. After finishing the killing, he is satisfied and cannot enter the bloodthirsty state again. Cooling time, 12 hours. Description: a weapon crafted with painstaking efforts by the legendary warlock Gul'dan Yanzu. Somehow, the evil power attached to the weapon has disappeared, leaving only the original intention of the weapon maker. Awesome, awesome. Yilin pondered the attribute description on the weapon. Even though he was well informed, he couldn't help but be shocked by the powerful attributes of Scarlet Butcher Knife. What you need to know is that the fixed strength bonus of the Harley Quinn's best friend in Old Pan's hand is only a 20% increase. But this Scarlet Butcher Knife, after activating the skills attached to the weapon, can obtain a temporary bonus of up to 20% on its two attributes of strength and agility under the condition of continuous killing and bloody killing. This weapon's explosive power far exceeds that of ordinary rare weapons. It can be said to be above the rare level and below the epic level. Perhaps because it is a mass-produced weapon, it does not deserve its own name. A whole 100 pieces. 100 pieces, 100 pieces. Yilin imagined for a moment that there were 100 men with ferocious faces holding Scarlet Butcher knives, entering and exiting the battlefield, like a scene of a tornado raging. Awesome. Yilin sighed softly and silently put the Scarlet Butcher knife back into the storage space. Next. Floating in mid-air, Yilin rubbed his palms, took out another card, and looked at it carefully. On the card is a big hammer. To the left of the hammer is a raging hurricane. On the right, is the roaring thunder. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 505. Yilin has been around for so long. Already have experience. The more gorgeous the card's shape, the stronger its attributes. The painter on this card, you can tell at a glance that it is not something that can only be obtained by rare equipment. What is rare equipment? He has a lot of them. Think of this. Yilin stared at the card intently. The attributes of the hammer once again appeared before Yilin's eyes. Storm and Thunder Messenger. Level Epic. Restrictions: only those with love and justice can use it. Durability 9999/10,000. Effect: strength add 10%. Additional effect: there is a 50% chance of causing the dizziness negative state when attacking. Enchanting Hurricane and Thunder. After the enchantment ability is activated, it will randomly strike all targets within 500 meters, causing thunder strikes. There is a certain probability of creating a hurricane climate within a range of 1000 meters. The power of the hurricane varies from person to person. Cost: 500 Shinik points. Cooling time is 24 hours. Explanation: in order to fight against the fire demon Ragnaros, when a certain dwarf leader prayed and knelt down to his ancestors, a hammer fell from the sky with the roar of thunder and the roar of the wind. At the same time, a vast voice came from the sky: "I am Thor, the god of thunder, for the glory of the gods of the north." So, this hammer got this legendary name. On the battlefield, Yilin was already pleasantly surprised. There is no turmoil in my heart now. But this is no ordinary epic level. Yilin knew before that there were 3, 6, or 9 levels of equipment at each level. But because of the common, rare, and rare, even if they are divided into 3, 6, or 9 grades, the difference is not too obvious, so that this statement later became a joke in the circle after dinner, and no one specifically listed it. But when it comes to the epic level, things are a little different. One cannot generalize between epic level and epic level. Like the epic equipment batsuit Yilin obtained before, or the epic stick Harley Quinn's best friend in Lao Pan's hand, the attribute bonuses are quite a lot, but there is no "this is a thunderous active skill." The epic hammer in Yilin's hand has slightly less attribute percentage bonus, but the active skills attached to the hammer are enough to make up for this gap. But when it comes to legendary level, it's hard to say. Legendary level items are just as the name suggests. If you own it, you can create a legend. This Storm and Thunderbringer cannot reach the level of legend. More awesome than the average epic level, but below the legendary level. Yilin stared at the hammer pattern on the card and muttered to himself, if we insist on making a grade assessment, it should be regarded as a pseudo-legendary. Equipment restrictions. This is what Yilin is most concerned about. During the trial, Yilin grasped the hammer. At that moment, it was like a mountain was pressing down on his hand, directly pressing Yilin in mid-air to the ground. With love and justice in your heart. The corners of Yilin's mouth twitched. This was the first time he encountered such an ambiguous explanation. Is it because the mood is wrong? Yilin thought for a while, then took a deep breath, discarded distracting thoughts, and wandered over and over in her mind the two words love and justice. But for some reason, when Yilin thinks of justice, she can't help but think of old Pan's cheerful giggle. Finally, after her emotions were brewing, Yilin crushed the Storm and Thunder messenger card into pieces. My heart is filled with love and justice. This soliloquy is like self-hypnosis. Yilin's eyes gradually changed from blurry to firm. Boom. The next second, Yilin fell straight from the sky and was buried in the deep snow. Hummed. Come again. Like. Justice. Boom. This time, Yilin used all her strength. Crash. His fall caused a massive avalanche. Tried several times. It wasn't until the mountain peak he was on that a unique side of bare, club-shaped boulders was formed due to repeated avalanches. Yilin gave up. Yilin reluctantly turned Storm and Thunder Messenger into a card state again, holding it in her hand, feeling depressed. What exactly does this ambiguous constraint mean? Has love disappeared? Or is he not just enough? How could he not be qualified to pick up this hammer? It doesn't make sense. It stands to reason that with his current mental attributes, it is no problem to give himself a self-hypnosis. The result was still a failure. Seeing a top-notch epic hammer in front of her, Yilin was unable to use it. One can imagine the area of his psychological shadow at this moment. Forget it, I can't use it, and neither can anyone else. There's nothing to worry about. After thinking about it like this to comfort herself, Yilin felt better. After putting away the thunderstorm bringer in a depressed mood, he wiped the snow off his body and entered the module space. Here. It is still a dark and boundless spiritual world. The broken beads and the bright beads alternate with light and darkness, like stars. Yilin expertly pulled the module skill tree into a thumbnail in front of her. In the last Alliance tribe battlefield, although Yilin was paddling on the second day, she harvested chaos points wantonly on the first and third days. According to statistics, in that trial alone, Yilin accumulated nearly 60,000 points. Chaos is worth so much. Coupled with Yilin's original inventory, his current chaos value is nearly 120,000. For Yilin, who had not upgraded her skills for a long time, this nearly 120,000 chaos points was a huge sum of money. After the version is updated, it will not be as easy to obtain skills as before. Yilin stared at the flashing skill ball in the module and said secretly, these 120,000 chaos points are not as good as upgrading the illusory new skills. It is better to upgrade the current skills, polish them carefully, and reach the unlock state of each skill as soon as possible. In this way, even if no new skills are recorded, I can further improve my current strength on the original basis. Among the skills Yilin currently possesses: Disaster Haunted and Like a Shadow, these two skills that can be said to have accompanied Yilin from the beginning to the present, have been upgraded to the max level. If they are upgraded further, the module prompts insufficient permissions. No idea. The skills that can continue to be improved are: Bloodthirsty Disaster, 3 stars, Summon Mount Night Dire, 1 star, Grip of Annihilation, 2 stars, and Shadow Kill, 1 star. Among these skills, The chaos value required to upgrade Grasp of Annihilation to 3 stars is 80,000. With the increase in Yilin's current output methods, although the Grip of Annihilation is powerful, it has gradually become Yilin's use. Come and use the final move. As for summoning Mount Night Dire, forget it, I will do it next time. As Yilin's strength increases, Night Dire has almost become someone else's mount and is of little use. Bloodthirsty Disaster is Yilin's trump card, and there are very few opportunities to use it. Moreover, the temporary attributes that Yilin can currently improve are restricted by the attribute lock. Even if the Bloodthirsty Disaster level is increased, the overall improved attributes will not allow Yilin to break through the attribute lock. It seems that the price/performance ratio is not high. After some thought and consideration, Yilin's eyes narrowed and he pointed his finger at one of the skill balls that emitted a bright white light. This operation requires 40,000 chaos points. Yes/no? Up. Shadow Kill, 1 star, was successfully upgraded to Shadow Kill, 2 stars. The chaos value is 40,000, and the remaining chaos value is 73,587. Shadow Kill. Level 2 stars, 80,000 chaos value for the next level. Consumption each time you enter the shadow state, it consumes 80 spiritual energy points. Maintaining the shadow state consumes 2 psychic points/second. Effect after the skill is activated, you can enter the shadow state. In the shadow state, the movement speed is increased by 50%. When the shadow state is released, the shadow breaking blow can be launched. The shadow breaking blow has penetration and destroy effects. Explanation: no one knows tailing better than you, and no one knows assassination better than you. The Lord of Shadows will be with you. A lackluster upgrade. There was no emotion in Yilin's heart. But to be honest, this skill has changed a lot after it was upgraded to 2 stars. First of all, the consumption of skills, the consumption of spiritual energy to activate Shadow Kill has been reduced from 100 spiritual energy to 80 spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy required to maintain the shadow state has also been reduced from 3 spiritual energy/second reduced to 2 psi/second. All in all, more durable. The movement speed in the shadow state has been increased from the initial 30% to 50%, which is a small leap. What surprised Yilin the most was the improvement in the effect of Shadow Breaking Blow. The Shadow Breaking Blow originally had a penetrating effect when used. After upgrading, the Shattering Strike adds a destroy effect. If it weren't for the fact that there was no target now, Yilin would have wanted to take a shot and see how the destroy effect was. Equipment and chaos values have been sorted out. Overall, this trial to prepare the Apostle was very rewarding. I never imagined that I could reap these benefits. As for the lottery, never mind. That's unreliable. After Yilin returned from the battlefield of the Tribal Alliance, she had more than 100,000 DP in her pocket and had nowhere to vent for the time being. Forget it, let's save it first. After sorting out the results of the trial, Yilin casually opened the Apostle Forum. But he suddenly discovered that the Apostle Forum had undergone earth-shaking changes. First of all, the circle is bigger, much bigger. This forum is divided into sub-blocks according to level. With Yilin's current level, she could only go to first level, second level, third level and more advanced forum subsections. Yilin casually clicked and a warm reminder popped up in front of her eyes. The level is too low, please try to improve the level before trying to enter. Yilin's fingers froze for a moment, but she still obediently opened the First Order Forum. Click to take a look. Yilin's scalp instantly felt numb. This forum is already in chaos. There are endless new posts, and as soon as they appear, they are pushed down by other posts. Posts filled with panic, curiosity, doubt, or despair moved up and down, left and right in front of Yilin. Just when Yilin wanted to open a certain post to browse or answer Mensin's doubts, in the blink of an eye, the post sank to the bottom of the sea and could never be found again. This forum is a very poor experience. After trying hard for a moment, Yilin had no choice but to give up in the face of the chaos in the First Order Forum. But from the Apostle Forum, Yilin could roughly guess what the outside world would be like now. This is the new world. Yilin looked at the clear, mirror-like sky above her head. Whispering softly. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 506. 3 days later. Outside the shelter. The vast snowfield is covered with fine snow. When Yilin got up in the morning, she found that Oda Mai and Mr. Amorendi were doing morning exercises outside. Speaking of which, what are you doing out for morning exercise on a snowy day? The strange thing is that Molly is holding up her mobile phone to record Amorendi. Amorendi was slowly doing gymnastics for the elderly in the snow. Are you feeling better? Yilin asked by the way when she passed by. Heh, not bad. But after saying that, Amorendi opened his mouth, and the wind and snow poured into his mouth, which made Amorendi cough violently again. Oda Mai was 100 meters away. Unmoved. She closed her eyes tightly, like a sculpture in the snow, letting the goose feathers cover her body. She looked like a Rakshasa in the snow, with a poignant beauty mixed with awe-inspiring murderous intent. After a quick glance, Yilin knew that Oda Mai was going to practice her sword again, so she didn't bother her. He walked up to Molly, pointed at the mobile phone in Molly's hand, and asked casually, "Did your grandpa ask you to take the photo?" "Yeah. What else can we do if we don't take videos? There's no signal here." "Why?" "I don't know. Grandpa asked me to take pictures of his heroic appearance so that he can take a closer look." "Fine." Yilin understood Amorendi's style of conduct, which most people could not understand. "Where are Lao Pan and the dog?" "Old Pan," Molly couldn't help but laugh when she thought of Old Pan. "Didn't you bring back a large piece of ice yesterday?" "I asked Old Pan to break it into pieces, and put it in the ice cellar. It's more convenient to use. As for the dog, if I'm not wrong, he went out hunting at midnight last night and hasn't come back yet." "Oh. Lao Pan is knocking on the ice. The dog goes hunting. What a peaceful life." "Oops, that's not right. Wait a moment. Lao Pan is knocking ice cubes." "Knock." Yilin remembered the origin of the stick and suddenly felt something was wrong. "Use a stick." "Otherwise?" "With your head." Molly felt that there was something wrong with Yilin's question. "Don't use that piece of ice. Listen to my advice. I'll bring another piece back tonight and crush it myself. As for the reason, don't ask." Molly looked confused. After wondering for a while, seeing that Yilin seemed unwilling to mention the reason, she didn't bother to ask. "Are you going out again today?" "Well, I'll continue to walk around and take a look at the surrounding environment." In fact, Yilin was choosing a place to practice her skills. "Well, there has been a lot of movement in the snow-capped mountains recently. Several peaks have been bald due to avalanches. Be careful," Molly reminded as she rubbed her palms together to warm them. Laugh. Several people behind. The airtight air pressure door opened with a sound. Ling Yi groped her way out of the shelter. When Yilin saw it, he quickly stepped forward to support Ling Yi and said, "Be careful. Look, you stepped 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow, so don't fall." Ling Yi smiled disapprovingly, "You are stupid. If you fall, you will fall into the snow, and it won't hurt." Molly kicked the snow at her feet hard. At the same time, Oda, who was meditating with her eyes closed, also noticed the movement beside the door of the shelter and looked over. Ling Yi smiled and said, "Can you take me for a walk in the snowy mountains?" "Ah!" Yilin was stunned. He never expected that Ling Yi, who was blind, would make such a request. As if sensing Yilin's emotions, Ling Yi lowered her voice a little. Is my request too much? No. Yilin quickly shook his head to prevent Ling Yi from noticing his hesitation, and quickly took Ling Yi's hand, and the two of them jumped into the air. Yilin turned around and said hello to the people on the ground. I'll take Yi to go for a walk in the snowy mountains to see the snow scenery. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. After Yilin finished speaking, he took Ling Yi with him in a blink of an eye, and their figures disappeared into the depths of the fine snow. 100 meters away. Oda Mai had no expression on her face as she drew a knife in front of her body. When she put away the knife again, there was a row of snowflakes in front of her, which were cut in half, no more, no less. Well, it seems like the knife is faster. Molly looked at the direction in which the two people disappeared in the air, feeling a little blocked in her heart. Cute and cute. Amorendi came closer to Molly with a shy face. I'm cold, go back to sleep. Grandpa, take a selfie for a while. By the way, Grandpa, remember to turn on beauty, I taught you this. Molly put the phone that was still recording into Amorendi's hand and walked quickly back to the shelter. I don't know why, I'm a little angry. In the wind and snow. Yilin used telekinesis power armor to protect Ling Yi from the wind and cold. But it seems that even if Yilin doesn't do much, Ling Yi's physique is really good. Wearing a simple cotton padded jacket and walking in the snow, you won't be shivering from the cold like Meng Meng. It seems like the two of us haven't been out and about in a while. I don't know if it was because of her blindness, but it was the first time that Ling Yi soared in the sky in this way, and there was no panic on her delicate face. Yes. Yilin slowly uttered two words. Yilin finished speaking. The two fell silent at the same time. The atmosphere at this time was actually a bit awkward. Only Yilin knew the reason. When he learned that his and Ling Yi's trajectories were actually separated into two completely different timelines, the past and the future, he unknowingly became somewhat alienated from Ling Yi. In Yilin's heart, there will always be Ling Yi. But that Ling Yi is in the future that is out of Yilin's reach, not now. Yilin also knew very well that there was something wrong with her attitude towards Ling Yi. But for a while, he just couldn't get over that hurdle, and he didn't know why. He always felt that something was strange, but he couldn't put it clearly. That complicated mood was the reason why Yilin subconsciously distanced herself from Ling Yi. Could it be that Ling Yi also noticed it? Yilin felt guilty secretly. Yilin took Ling Yi and soared in the snow-capped mountains. Far away. A towering mountain peak reaches into the clouds, like a sharp sword hanging from the sky, thrusts straight into the snow field, looking aloof and lonely. That's Mount Everest. The highest peak in the world. Mount Everest, located on the edge of the national border. But there is still some distance from the Tower of Death Zone server limit. What's in that direction? Suddenly, Ling Yi followed Yilin soaring in the sky. She closed her eyes and pointed in the direction of Mount Everest. She held Yilin's hand and subconsciously tightened it a little, and asked in a low voice. Everest. Everest, Ling Yi repeated these 5 words in a low voice, and then looked at Yilin. Those eyes that were obviously unable to see things made Yilin feel bright and energetic at this time. Ling Yi added, I want to go there and have a look. Look. Hearing this, Yilin felt dumbfounded. But he felt that saying what was in his heart might make Ling Yi feel uncomfortable. After hesitating for a few seconds, Yilin could only ask cautiously, the oxygen on Mount Everest is thin, and I'm afraid you won't be able to bear the clothes you're wearing. It's okay, aren't you here? Ling Yi raised the corners of her mouth and winked at Yilin, I'm just curious. Fine. Yilin nodded helplessly. For some reason, he just couldn't refuse Ling Yi's request. From before, always. By the way, not before. Yilin took Ling Yi and flew towards Mount Everest. Yilin always paid attention to the consumption of his spiritual energy and the height of his flight. If you accidentally hit the forbidden air zone, it would be a bit embarrassing. As altitude increases, the air becomes thinner. Yulin secretly used her telekinesis power armor to create a thin film around the two of them, which could resist low temperatures and wind and snow while retaining most of the air, killing two birds with one stone. He didn't feel any discomfort. Look back. Seeing that Ling Yi also had a calm expression, Yulin felt relieved. I didn't expect Ling Yi's physique to be really good. As soon as this thought flashed through Yulin's mind, she stopped thinking about it. 10 minutes later. Reached the top. He never expected that he and Ling Yi would reach the top of Mount Everest so easily. Under their feet was the eternal frozen soil. Looking from a distance, the white sea of clouds stretches as far as the eye can see. From time to time there are several bare peaks that protrude above the sea of clouds, looking particularly outstanding. Looking even further, a tall tower surrounded by grey mist reached straight into the sky. It was higher than Yulin's current height. It was unknown where it would reach. In the airs, the breathing of the two people was clearly audible, but other than that, there was no other sound. It was so quiet that it was like they were the only two people left in the world. After Ling Yi arrived at the top of Mount Everest, she frowned slightly and wondered what she was thinking. Yulin saw that Ling Yi did not feel any strange discomfort. While marveling at Ling Yi's ridiculously good physical fitness, she also relaxed and briefly immersed herself in the quiet atmosphere. This kind of vision gave Yulin the urge to shout loudly. But it is expected to trigger a very violent avalanche. Think about it and forget it. Right now. Yulin suddenly felt something was wrong. Since he broke through the mental lock, his mental attributes have skyrocketed. Coupled with sufficient psychic energy, he can be willful. Yulin had long been accustomed to letting out her senses to explore the surroundings instead of her eyes. Yulin's move was a subconscious one and had no deep meaning. After the perceptible was released, Yulin realized that something was wrong. As the perception deepened, Yulin's face gradually became solemn. Yi, hurry up, there's a place I want to go down and take a look at. After Yulin finished speaking, he took Ling Yi and flew downwards. After landing about 200 meters, here is a relatively straight cliff. The cliff is covered with a thick layer of ice. Although the surface is not as smooth as a mirror, it still looks like a whitewashed wall. It seems somewhat incompatible with the undulating frozen soil on the other three sides of Mount Everest. This cliff gave Yulin the feeling that someone had used some kind of force to cut it so flat. Yulin held Ling Yi's hand, suspended in front of the cliff with a solemn expression. He slowly stretched out his hand forward and shook slightly. Crash! The permanent ice on the cliff was suddenly shaken out by Yulin. But behind the hole, there is a long passage. The deep passage leads nowhere. Really? Yulin was surprised and confused. What is surprising is that on the top of this uninhabited peak, behind the seemingly man-made cliff, there is such a passage. What's suspicious is, who dug a passage here? There seems to be something inside. Ling Yi suddenly said something. When Ling Yi said those words inexplicably, Yulin's expression froze and she looked at Ling Yi in her arms. At this moment, Yulin has an illusion. When Ling Yi said these words, something seemed to be different. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 507. What's wrong? Ling Yi noticed Yulin's gaze, looked back at Yulin, and asked with a smile. No, then go in and have a look. Yulin hesitated again and again, but decided to walk into the passage to take a look. Take a look and see what's at the end of the passage. In Yulin's perception, there is a hole at the top of Mount Everest. This is also the reason why Yulin was able to discover the passage behind the cliff. but Yilin clearly didn't sense any living existence in that hole. What did Ling Yi mean when she said there was something inside? Yilin took Ling Yi into the cave and stepped into the passage. The walls of the passage were dug out to be extremely smooth. Yilin reached out and knocked on the wall a few times. He discovered that this passage was created by someone who dug out the frozen soil and rocks from the mountain in a certain way and then covered the four walls of the passage with solid ice, thus forming a passage that could accommodate one person. Being able to carve out such a mysterious place near the top of Mount Everest, no matter what is behind the passage, it is worth Yilin's exploration. There are no dangers along the way. The two of them walked carefully in the darkness, and after walking about 20 meters, their eyes suddenly opened up. Rays of light shrunk into beams, like spotlights, crisscrossing from the top of the head. The light from those attires was soft but not dazzling. When it intertwined in front of her eyes, it did not give Yilin a dazzling feeling. On the contrary, it was just right, increasing the visibility in the open space. If I had to use a metaphor, it was as if Yilin had suddenly entered a stranger's mansion. The mansion was lit with soft lights in night mode. "What's here?" Ling Yi asked curiously. "There's nothing in there." Yilin shook her head and answered truthfully. "Be careful and don't touch it everywhere. I'll take a look around." Yilin walked inside the mountain. As Yilin explored, he discovered that the soft beam of light above his head was the weak spot between the mountain and the outer wall, which had been forcibly opened and then filled with solid ice. Yilin reached out and touched it, and found that the ice was deliberately made into a concave lens shape, which caused the light to diverge. This is also the reason why the light from outside the mountain appears soft and not dazzling when it enters here. There is nothing special in the mountain cavity of about 200 square meters. In the corner, there is a square piece of ice. This is a bed. Yilin smiled hoarsely, feeling shocked. Combining what he saw and heard after the passage, it is obvious that someone dug out a 3-room and living-like cavity in Mount Everest, created a light source above his head, followed the alternation of day and night, and even made a bed out of ice. If you don't take into account the thin air and harsh climate at the top of Mount Everest, it is a good place to relax. But who would live in a place like this? Yilin groaned inwardly. But he still went to the bed. There was an indescribable aura in the cold and thin air. When Yilin got closer, she found some strange lines carved on the ice bed. Suddenly, Yilin was shocked, and her hands involuntarily touched the lines left on the ice bed. The whole person was frozen in place and made no other movements for a long time. A few minutes later, near the entrance of the passage, Ling Yi came to her senses and called Yilin not far away, "Lin. I am here." Hearing Ling Yi's voice, Yilin removed her hand from the ice bed and walked back to Ling Yi with a calm expression. "Did you find anything?" Yilin shook his head. "No, it's just a piece of ice. I feel a little weird here," Ling Yi said. Yilin smiled. Maybe it was formed naturally, the miraculous workmanship of nature, who knows? Ling Yi fell silent. She was non-committal about Yilin's words. Apart from the ice bed, Yilin found nothing else and was ready to leave. Just as the two were about to leave from the passage, Ling Yi stretched out her hand without warning and lightly wiped Yilin's face. Ling Yi's movements were not fast. According to Yilin's current attributes, he could easily avoid Ling Yi's hand. But Yilin didn't hide, letting Ling Yi make trouble in his face. "You cried." Ling Yi had a strange expression, half smiling but not smiling. "Ah!" Yilin was startled when he heard this. He subconsciously rubbed the corners of his eyes, and sure enough, they were a little moist. But Yilin couldn't tell whether it was tears or something else. "How is that possible? Leave quickly. You won't be able to bear it if you stay for too long." "Good." Yilin was in front and Ling Yi was behind. They left through the passage they came from. I don't know how much time passed. After the two left, In the hollow of the mountain, a gentle breeze blew inexplicably. The cold wind pouring in from the narrow passage swirled and whistled in the hollow, and the sound of the gathered wind sounded like someone was crying or sighing. Senior brother. It was already noon when Yilin and Ling Yi returned to the shelter. Molly and others did not ask where Yilin and Ling Yi had gone. It's just that the expressions of a few people are weird. There's not much food in the shelter. When a group of people gathered together and drank hot gruel, Molly lowered her head and said something new. Yilin's expression was calm and she simply replied with 3 words. After porridge. Molly pulled Yiren aside. Is there any way to get some equipment back? What device? Molly quickly stuffed a list of equipment into Yilin's hand. Yilin opened the equipment list and looked at it, and her scalp suddenly felt numb. Are you still thinking about Unit 0? Otherwise, I can't just stare at the food here every day and not do business, right? I'm a great scientist and I'm not your housekeeper. Molly straightened her chest and replied confidently. Fine. Yilin pondered for a moment, then thought that he was going to the outside world to replenish food anyway, so he agreed, I can only promise to do my best. Also, I need a lot of high-quality titanium alloys, as well as other materials. Molly smiled happily and put another list of materials into Yilin's other hand. Yilin, are you asking me to rob the treasury? Molly was shocked. When did I let you rob me? You don't call this robbery. Go and borrow it, can't you? It seems, there's nothing wrong with it. Yilin reluctantly agreed. Before leaving, Molly showed Yiren away. If I remember correctly, most of the things on the list should be available in the treasury of Hading City. By the way, help me say hello to Uncle Li Kai. When did Meng Meng start to learn this hidden way of talking? After Molly left happily, Yiren stared at the 2 lists thoughtfully. Although Molly didn't say it clearly. But obviously, she is adapting to this new and unfamiliar world and her new identity as quickly as possible. She is no longer a member of the laboratory, nor is she a key protected talent in this country. Now Molly is gradually positioning herself as a member of the Apocalypse Guild and is trying to find a way to survive in the barren and cold snow fields. Molly should know very well that he had a complete falling out with the senior officials of Dragon Kingdom, and it was because of Mo Ren. But Molly also speculated that Li Kai probably had nothing to do with this matter, so there was a hint of asking Yilin to win over Li Kai in his words. However, Molly didn't say it clearly. Just knocking from the side, by the way, say hello to Uncle Li Kai for me. Yilin carefully folded the 2 handwritten lists and put them away. It seems that in just a few days, Molly has experienced ups and downs, and she is maturing at an impressive speed. Yes, not bad. This is a good thing. At a faster speed, she is gradually becoming the strategist of the order camp in Yilin's impression, Molly. After collecting Molly's list, Yilin casually opened the ranking list. After the version was updated, Yilin probably explored the functions after the version was updated. In fact, if you really want to get food, it's not too difficult to get it. In the material exchange store that appeared after the version update, there are a lot of messy materials such as fresh water, star hotel toiletry sets, men's appearance equipment, women's appearance equipment, compressed biscuits and so on. The items that can be exchanged in the material exchange store do not have any magical properties and cover the daily needs of human beings. It's convenient, but the DP consumption is terrible. Let's not mention the gaudy various men's and women's Krypton gold-looking equipment in the store. A cup of 250 ml pure water requires 150 DP to exchange, which is simply outrageous. Although you buy water and get a cup for free, the price can definitely be said to be sky high. Not to mention other Krypton gold appearance and other materials. This is indeed a new era. Being deep in the snow-capped mountains and surrounded by snow, Yilin was not worried about fresh water resources. But for other food types, you have to find another way. Of course, Yilin had already thought of a way, but she just didn't have time to implement it. After closing the material exchange store, Yilin opened the ranking list again. 3 days have passed since the version update. In the past 3 days, many people on the ranking list have selected display for their names. What surprised Yilin? After 3 days of not watching, his ranking in the rankings changed again. Grass. Never imagined. His regional server ranking rose from 46th on the first day to 37th in the blink of an eye. After a moment of astonishment, Yilin deduced the reason. Could it be that the newly added 100 rare level equipment and the epic level Storm and Thunder Messenger have directly greatly improved my ranking? The ranking statistics are based on comprehensive strength and are for reference only, which is not surprising. In the district server rankings, Yilin also found the rankings of several acquaintances. They are: District number 6, Winxia. District 19, Yuligzin. District server 32, Zhaotakian. District server 93, Luho. District server 67, Likai. Yingxia has always hidden it. Even on the day Emperor Zuchong died, he didn't use his real trump card. Yilin recalled Yingxia's performance that day, thoughtfully, but even so, with Yingxia's strength, he is only rank 6th in the district server. Well, it seems that there is indeed a lot of moisture in this ranking list. Or maybe, there are still many crouching tigers, hidden dragons in the Tower of Death server. As for the world rankings, Yilin looked at it. Not refreshed yet. There are still question marks inside. It is mentioned very clearly in the version update notes. The world rankings are updated every Monday, so it might not be time to be included in the list yet. Yilin is very curious, based on his current evaluation, where he can rank in the world server. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 508. Yilin stayed in seclusion for another 3 days. That's right, retreat. During these 3 days, Yilin was alone and left the shelter. No one in the shelter knew where Yilin had gone. In the early morning of the 4th day, Yilin rode the snow and wind back to the shelter. You're back. This week, Molly seems to have lost a lot of weight. She looked sleepily at Yilin passing by the corridor, her eyelids opened, and she became more energetic. Well, I'm going to go out. Yilin smiled. Are you finally going out? Molly's eyes lit up. Yilin whispered a few words in Molly's ear. Molly nodded and made an okay gesture to express her understanding. It is a pity that Molly does not have the status of apostle. Once Yilin leaves, there is no way to contact Molly in time. So I can only use stupid methods. Yilin took out the redemption revolver. Click. The ability is activated, and a magazine of charged bullets is filled in the empty magazine. In front of Molly, Yilin took out the 6 charged bullets from the magazine, clicked them again, and filled another magazine. 12 charged bullets containing mysterious power were suspended in front of Yilin. To be honest, until now, after Yilin has mastered the enchantment ability of the twin guns, she still doesn't understand the method by which the spiritual energy value is converted into pure energy similar to crystal to activate the spell. Psychic energy seems to be the medium for the conversion of all power systems, converting various abilities from different dimensions and systems into the same level. But being unable to understand the mystery does not prevent Yilin from using it. 12 bullets quickly rearranged between Yilin and Molly. Molly's current theoretical level on crystal pattern technique is not bad. After a moment of recognition, she recognized it and exclaimed. Teleportation. Right. Yilin smiled and activated his ability at the same time. Since telekinesis can be used in a way of increasing density and can be condensed into an existence similar to mindfulness needles, then it is natural that telekinesis can also be used as the basis to create a pathway for energy flow. There is no energy product like crystal in this world, so Yilin can only think of ways to make crystal pattern more grounded. He retreated for 3 days and finally mastered this usage. Although there are still many differences from the drawing circles that Adeng showed at the end, this method of application is undoubtedly much more convenient. Yilin can even change her painting style and create a small fireball with her bare hands. In the blink of an eye, the 12 charged bullets were arranged, the space was torn apart, and the distorted scene rippled between the techniques, emitting a shining white light. I am leaving. The next second, as soon as she finished speaking, and before Molly could reply, Yilin had already plunged into the light and disappeared from Molly's eyes. Molly reached out blankly and took a handful of the air after the light dissipated. Naturally, nothing was caught. Is this guy still human? Molly muttered. 500 kilometers away from the refuge plateau. Over an unknown small town. There was a flash of light and Yilin appeared. In the city. Thick smoke was billowing everywhere. Because the charged bullet has not been charged, the energy contained in it is limited, and the maximum transmission distance is about 500 kilometers. This place is still in the southwest of Dragon Kingdom, located on the border, far away from the bustling city. In the small town, the air is cold, lonely, and eerily quiet. Yilin's heart moved and she landed in the street. The streets were empty, but the streets were in shambles. The signboards of various shops lay scattered on the roadside. Traffic lights and street lights were broken at the waist and lying in the middle of the road. There are many corpses in the streets, alleys, and houses, with different forms of death. Yilin silently put the smiley face mask on her face that had been placed in the corner of the storage space and had not used it for a long time, and walked on the street. Here it is. Yilin picked up a crumpled leaflet from the ground. Welcome to Mingzi Ancient City, where you can experience the unique customs and customs. Obviously. This was once a tourist city. The local customs and customs are completely different from the bustling modern city. Yilin's eyes narrowed. In his sight, there was a faint black energy floating out from the corpses with different forms of death, and the grudge covering his forehead was absorbed in the blink of an eye. These corpses have been dead for many days, but their resentment lingers. After Yilin quickly absorbed the grievance in the surrounding area, he released his senses. After a while, he found the source of the chaos in this ancient tourist town. It's so miserable. Bai Xiaoi floated behind Yilin, with a look of unbearable expression on his face. Nai Hongxiu looked much calmer. The next stage of upgrade of spirit-possessed weapons is far away. Yilin usually summons the two mother spirits when she has nothing to do to increase her favorability. It's similar to the way to earn bond points in the world of Auranos. Sheeping wool is easy. As the level of the possessed weapons increased, the translucent bodies of Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi became more solid. It seems that the two little mother spirits have entities, which is something that can be expected soon. Well, the future can be expected. That's what humans are. Yilin sighed softly and walked on the messy streets, rubbing bullets while recovering her spiritual energy. During the 3 days of seclusion, Yilin conducted many experiments on the use of this crystal pattern technique. The charged bullets can remain for about an hour after being rubbed out. After an hour, if not used, the charged bullet will dissipate into nothingness. It's all in vain. However, this is a waste of money. With Yilin's current mental attributes, the natural recovery speed of her spiritual energy is worth the normal consumption. For Yilin, these hand-rolled bullets are equivalent to an endless supply of energy and are extremely cost-effective. Even if they are no longer used and disappear, it is not a pity. Yilin quickly repeated the cycle of loading the bullet and unloading it with the backhand to rub the charged bullet and continued to move forward. Gradually, there are human movements coming from the front. There was once a bustling tourist business street. Looking from a distance, thousands of ragged people were struggling to load the goods from each shop into cars and transport them in the same direction. Looking down from a high position, the blackheads of these people carrying goods look like the hard-working ants in the ant clan. The goods in the store, including food, clothing, daily necessities, various electronic products, etc., are all brand new. The ragged porters, each with a blank look on their face, were mechanically doing boring work, forming an extremely efficient transport line. What are they doing? Nai Hongzio's white eyes flickered slightly and asked. Generally speaking, she rarely takes the initiative to talk to Yilin. I don't know whether it's embarrassing or not. But as long as she takes the initiative to talk to Yilin, it means that this matter is important. Moving supplies. Yilin followed him like a shadow, watching from a distance, and explained, with the version update, many people died in the trial after being summoned. In the early stage, it will definitely cause violent turmoil. The order of human society will also change in the future. It collapsed overnight. But this is only temporary. I believe that after this period of chaos, a new order will gradually form. This is the so-called new era. But those people are so miserable. Bai Xiaoi interrupted. Yes, natural selection, the law of nature. Yilin's eyes were calm and he said something lightly, making Nai Hongzio and Bai Xiaoi unable to see what Yilin was thinking at the moment. You hide first. After remaining silent for a minute, Yilin waved her hand, making the two mother spirits Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongzio disappear, while she turned on shadow follower and walked into the commercial street. In broad daylight, although Yilin's shadowy presence could not exert its maximum effect, the porters' expressions were dull, as if they had long accepted their fate of becoming people's servants overnight, and their eyes had lost their sparkle. Even if someone among them accidentally noticed Yilin's passing, he didn't take it seriously. He quickly looked away and continued to do the work at hand. Yilin walked like no one else and arrived in front of a building that did not appear to have been damaged in any way. Mingzi Ancient Town Visitor Center. Next to the visitor center is the exit of the underground network. But there, someone was driving a cement truck, pouring fresh concrete into the completely destroyed underground grid outlet. It seems that they want to use this simple and crude method to block off this ancient town of Mingzi. It's a good idea. Yilin silently clicked a like. Outside the visitor center, there were many people patrolling around wearing body armor and carrying various modern weapons. Armed police. Looking at the armed forces wearing body armor, Yilin subconsciously thought of this possibility. But after observing for a moment, Yilin shook his head and denied the idea. The way these patrol officers held guns was very unprofessional, and they did not give people the feeling of being professionally trained. This is not difficult to see. Hurry. The boss said that the exit of the underground network must be completely buried before dark tonight. If we don't finish it, there will be no food. Everyone, be careful. The boss has received internal information that the trash actors in the film and television city may try to steal our supplies in the next few days. Everyone should use their best tactics and don't let suspicious people sneak in. We must defend the stronghold. The boss said that as long as the Mingzi film and television city is killed, other small forces have nothing to fear. This Mingzi ancient town is the beginning of our Third Heaven Guild's fortune. The Third Heaven. This naming taste is really. It's hard to describe in one word. Yilin hid aside and listened to the conversation of those people, complaining secretly. Guild. Yilin silently opened the district server guild rankings. Within a few days of version update. In the Tower of Death server, 7 guilds have appeared, including Apocalypse founded by Yilin. The first batch of qualifications to create a guild will only be granted to the top 50 apostles in the district server. But only 7 guilds appeared. Yilin thought about it and didn't find it strange. After all, the conditions for creating a guild are that in addition to having the qualifications to create a guild, you must also pay 50,000 death points and recruit 4 official apostles within 24 hours to respond to the guild. Among the top 50 players in the regional server, Either the Lone Ranger couldn't find anyone, or they were lazy, or they hadn't found anyone else to respond in the early stages of the chaos. Currently, the 7 guilds that have been successfully created in the Tower of Death area are 1. Shugwang Sect, 2. Apocalypse, 3. Gospel Meeting, 4. Liang Army, 5. The Bright Moon of Qin Dynasty, 6. Special Group, 7. Peak Combat Power. All kinds of monsters and monsters appeared. But you can't find the third heaven. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 509. No. There is no so-called third heaven among the 7 guilds. After a while, Yilin understood. It turned out to be an unofficial organization. He was not qualified to create a guild, but he used this name to attract a group of people. Good guy. I don't even dare to do this. After Yilin figured out the key, he looked at the 7 major guilds that had been successfully created so far. He paused on a few of their names for a moment and then closed the ranking interface. Yilin cancelled following like a shadow and walked out of the darkness. Now, Yilin's presence is like a macho man walking into a women's bathhouse, so dazzling and eye-catching. Where did this guy come from? Are all the guys who are squatting outside such a big deal? They actually let outsiders sneak in. Yilin's casual attire at the moment looked out of place with the porters around her, and she could tell the difference between friend and foe at a glance. What's more, Yilin is wearing a weird mask, and it's obvious that he's coming with bad intentions. Who are you? After a moment of panic, dozens of Third Heaven patrol officers carrying guns raised their gun heads, opened the safety, and tried to aim at Yilin's head. Yilin roughly predicted the trajectory and found that even if he stood still, he wouldn't die. They didn't aim at all. So unprofessional. Yilin secretly shook his head. With just these few crooked melons and cracked dates, you can control many refugees. This shows how easy it is to become a king on your own in the beginning of troubled times. With the rapid collapse of all order, the brave ones take action, while the timid ones are controlled by others and have nothing wrong with them. Many ordinary people have never been exposed to any abnormality. Even if they are lucky enough to survive the preparatory apostle trial and have the status of a formal apostle, the quality of the second batch of formal apostles is also uneven. There are a large number of formal apostles whose combat effectiveness is not even as good as that of professionally trained armed police. At this moment, Yilin was wearing a smiling face mask, her movements were joyful, and she had a sense of mystery all over her body. This made the patrol officers' adrenaline surge and their expressions became tense. I just happened to be passing by. Yilin smiled, rarely telling the truth. Wait a minute. That mask is most likely a costume prop from the studio. He is from the studio. Shot. Yilin told the truth, but others didn't believe it at all. After someone gave Yilin the title of Exquisite Film and Television City Production, the others trembled when they heard it, and without saying a word, they pulled the trigger and fired at Yilin. Thud, tug, 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 tug. In the smoke and rain of bullets, Yilin looked calm, her pace did not slow down, and she asked in a gentle voice. Before I take action, let me ask you a little bit, are you ready to wake up? Bullets floated in front of Yilin. No more progress. While driving, the patrol officers also noticed that something was wrong. Their eyes were horrified, and they looked at Yilin as if they were looking at a monster. Yes, it's a senior. He is not human. Yilin waved his hand, and all the bullets floating in front of him immediately returned to the way they came. In an instant, the bullet accurately passed through everyone's eyebrows. Get chaos value add 56. Get chaos value add 60. Get chaos value add 32. Get chaos value add 29. In front of Yilin's eyes, the screen was instantly flooded with prompts for obtaining chaotic points like mosquito legs. Nowadays, Yilin's Apocalypse Night module requires tens of thousands to upgrade skills, which makes Yilin feel calm about these mosquito-like chaos values. After he easily knocked down the guard at the entrance of the visitor center, he entered the visitor center carelessly. There was a faint smell of blood in the visitor center, but the blood stains on the walls and floor had been cleaned up. But from the smell of blood in the air, it was not difficult for Yilin to guess what happened here not long ago. Shortly after Yilin entered the visitor center, a shirtless man with a crew cut and his body covered with beads of sweat walked out of a room with his pants held up. Behind the half-open door, there was a faint sound of breathing. "Who are you?" The crew-cut man put on his trousers and looked at Yilin, who walked straight into the visitor center, with doubts in his eyes, hiding anger and murderous intent. "Pretty much same as you." Yilin's terrifyingly calm voice came out from behind the mask. "Senior," the flat-headed man quickly took out a short knife from the storage space, and there was a faint light flowing on the short knife. He first said the word "senior." Seeing that Yilin did not deny it, he asked again, "Are you a foreign aide invited by the film and television city?" "Ah." Yilin chuckled, released his senses, and soon found the location of the transported supplies in the visitor center. The smiling face mask and Yilin's calm smile made the crew-cut man feel invisible pressure. But he couldn't figure it out either. It doesn't make sense. This is just a small tourist city on the edge. Real high-level apostles are all fighting in big cities. What are you doing in a small place like this? He saw Yilin walking towards him. The crew-cut man took a deep breath. "Friend, listen to my advice. If you are from outside, there is no need to wade into the muddy water here. The world is very big." But the crew-cut man hadn't finished speaking yet. "I want the supplies." With one word, Yilin swallowed up all the sweet words that the crew-cut man had finally brewed up. "You're actually interested in this little material?" When Yilin revealed his purpose, the flat-headed man was stunned for a moment, then his eyes flashed fiercely, and he couldn't help laughing. "I thought you were such a master, but I didn't expect you to pay attention to such a mere thing. In terms of materials, the layout is not that big." As he spoke, the crew-cut man grinned and held the short knife at his side. "You turn around and leave now. I will pretend that nothing has happened. If you, my friend, want to join me in the third heaven, then I will welcome you to Joko. After all, I am still a fourth-level person no matter what. Among senior people, fourth-level people are not considered top-notch, and I am self-aware. But in a small 18th-tier county like Mingzi, being an indigenous prince is not a problem. Level 4, not bad." After Yilin finished speaking, seeing that the other party was unwilling to give up the supplies, she felt helpless and clapped it with her palm. Boom! Yilin didn't bother to use any skills, so she used the 10 major slap technique, which turned into a palm and slapped Ujo Mao directly on the body. And then, nothing more. The battle was very rushed. It was over in an instant. After the loud noise, the visitor center shook as if it was about to collapse. Ujo didn't even have time to react. He was flying with a knife in the air, smashed through several walls, and fell to the ground as a bloody man, dying. Violent shaking, like an earthquake, occurred in the room where Gao Chao walked out. Several good-looking women walked out of the room in embarrassment, wrapped in quilts. Each woman has many scars on her body, her eyes are empty, and she has obviously suffered a lot of inhuman abuse. Yilin glanced at it from a distance, feeling neither joy nor sorrow in her heart. She floated like a ghost, crossed several broken walls that Ujo had knocked out with her body, and came to Ujo. It's still alive and the meat is of good quality. Ujo had countless broken bones all over his body, his eyes were wide open, with 3 parts fear, 3 parts shock, 3 parts despair, and 1 part hidden deep regret. Yulin didn't give Ujoko a chance to beg for mercy or make a desperate comeback. Only when he said the word live did he press his palm down from the air. It's a pity that Ujoko didn't have time to hear the second half of Yulin's praise, otherwise he could have died in peace. Get chaos value at 333. It's a pity that there is no relic box anymore. Yulin was really pity now. Damn it. Well, damn. When everything was over, Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu emerged from behind Yulin and each said something. It's just the jungle of the jungle. Yulin doesn't have many weird emotions such as hatred and contempt. He simply asked the other party for supplies, and then he didn't want to, it's that simple. At the beginning of the chaos, supplies were not currently scarce. But Ujoko was one step ahead, thinking about the possible future direction of the world, collecting all kinds of materials in advance for easy storage, and becoming the king of the mountain in this small tourist city, which can be regarded as a unique vision. The vision is unique, and whether it is correct or not is a matter of opinion. Yulin felt that it was a little early to start stocking up on supplies at this time. With the death of large numbers of people, supplies will not be too scarce for the entire world in a short period of time. This is not like the plot trend of zombie massacre in novels or film and television dramas. Moreover, the apostles have a material exchange store. As long as they can earn a large amount of DP in the trial, they will never die of hunger no matter what. Yulin just didn't want to waste her precious DP on daily necessities. Nothing was revealed about Ujoko's death. Apart from chaos points and a little grievance gain, Yulin also gained nothing else. Ujoko seemed to have died in vain. In order to prevent Ujoko's death from being in vain, after Yulin slapped Joko to death with one palm, he reached out his hand and condensed a layer of blood on Ujoko's body. Second level of blood, add 3.4. Compared with the weight of Emperor Zuchong, the buff bonus of this layer of blood is far incomparable. But Yulin thought it was better than nothing, so don't waste it. Come out. After dealing with Ujoko, Yulin suddenly said something to the empty floor not far away. If you don't come out, I'll beat you to death. Yulin added, very seriously. After Yulin added the explanation, the ground cracked. A man had a solemn expression, as if facing a formidable enemy, and assumed a fighting stance towards Yulin. Who are you anyway? We have no reason to be hostile. As expected, it's you. Yulin smiled and took off his mask. What a coincidence. It's been a long time. Well, it's not too long to say the least. When the man saw Yulin's true face clearly, the fighting spirit he had finally gathered was instantly released, like a flood breaking a bank, gone forever. It's you. In the visitor center, when Yulin casually killed Ujoko, Yulin noticed that there was someone hiding on the floor. At first he thought it was Ujoko's trump card. So I kept an eye out for curiosity. Unexpectedly, until Ujoko's tragic death, the people hiding under the floor did not emerge, which Yulin found strange. After thinking about it, Yulin felt that this method of hiding in the floor seemed familiar. As expected, it was Ningyu. Digging Master, Senior Spiritual Side, Ningyu. After Ningyu was shocked and yelled F***ck, his eyes regained vigilance. He took a few steps forward, kept a few meters away from Yulin, and asked, "Why are you here?" Yulin saw through Ningyu's vigilance at a glance and pointed it out bluntly, "You don't have to be like this, I really want to kill you, it's too easy. And now the apostles in the same zone will not drop the relic box when they are killed. Are you nervous? What the hell?" Ningyu thought about it. "Oh, that makes sense. Why am I so nervous? The habits developed by the first batch of closed beta apostles over the years have almost become instinctive in their bones. Only a few days after the version update, Ningyu still hasn't changed his mind for a while. But Yulin's voice changed, his supplies have been packed and organized, which saved me a lot of trouble. So, as long as you don't worry about this batch of supplies, we are still good friends. If you are here for this batch of supplies, for the sake of our former friendship, I will give you 10 seconds to run away. No, no, no. It's nothing. I swear on my personality. Ningyu shook his head wildly, making a clicking sound, with unusual force, fearing that Yilin would misunderstand. Yilin's smile became kind. At that moment, Ningyu felt that his path seemed to be getting wider. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 510. The visitor center was deserted. After Ujoko's death, the porters didn't dare come to check on what was going on here. The women stumbled out of the visitor center, and Yilin didn't stop them. Sitting in the empty visitor center, Yilin was surrounded by two mother spirits. Ningyu looked at the familiar faces of the two mother spirits and nodded secretly. No wonder in the world of Auranos, this guy has the Excalibur. It turns out that it was a spiritually possessed weapon that was integrated into that world without any sense of disobedience. Ningyu is truly a spiritual person and quickly figured out the doubts he had in the previous trial. You actually have the nerve to say you didn't clear that trial. Ningyu's resentful eyes drifted over. Yilin was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized. It seems that Ningyu included his instant kill level 4 Yu Gao Gao record as a reward from the world of Auranos. After all, they were still at the same level in the last trial. In the blink of an eye, Yilin was able to instantly kill level 4 Yu Gao Chao. Apart from this explanation, Ningyu could not use any other reason to explain Yilin's rapid improvement in strength. Yilin smiled and said nothing, and did not deny it. This default attitude made Ning right brain make up for the feat of Yilin alone at the end of the world of Auranos, killing the final boss in a desolate world. How will you be here? As old friends reminisced, Yilin asked about Ningyu's experience. Ningyu touched his nose and told his story. Turn out to be. Ningyu is an actor. The less famous kind. After coming out of the world of Auranos, he happened to receive an announcement in the real world. In fact, with Ningyu's status as an apostle, the profession of actor is dispensable and is equivalent to a pastime. Ningyu followed the crew to the film and television city in Mingzi ancient town. During this month-long shooting routine, Ningyu regained his original happiness. Well, happy. There is nothing to say about what happened next. After the version was updated, Ningyu's parents were also drawn into the trial of preparing apostles. Through blood relations, Ningyu came in aid mode and finally succeeded in saving his parents. But just when Ningyu wanted to go through the underground network and return to the city where he lived, he found that the entrance to the underground network was occupied by Ujoko. As an apostle on the melee side, Ujoko's apostle level was slightly higher than that of Ningyu. Coupled with the natural advantage of the melee side over the spiritual side, Ningyu was defeated and suffered a tragic defeat. That guy killed a lot of people, occupied the underground network substation, and stole the key to activate the underground network. He used this to blackmail me into joining his guild. But then he got into trouble for some reason, and today he directly filled in the entrance to the ground network. Ningyu said bitterly. Ningyu. At this time, outside the visitor center, a female voice sounded familiar to Yilin. Yo. Yilin took a look and saw that he was also an acquaintance. Xiao Chuer. Ah, you guys. Yilin frowned, intertwined his fingers, and made a complicated gesture. Nonsense. Xiao Chuer understood Yilin's gesture instantly. He spat, our relationship is not as dirty as you think. I'm just bored. He happened to invite me to come here for a trip, saying that he could meet my idol Li Chang'e and that food and accommodation would be included, so I came. That's it? It's that simple. Ning Yu lowered his voice in Yi Lin's ear and said, Li Chang'e was originally on the actor announcement list, but for some reason, Li Chang'e broke the contract and rejected the announcement. I sent the original announcement to Chuer, so. Yi Lin suddenly realized, it turns out that it was your turn because Li Chang'e didn't come. Ning Yu. It seemed that Ning Yu had briefly told Xiao Chuer about Yi Lin on her way here. So Xiao Chuer didn't show too much surprise when he first saw Yi Lin in a place like this. I was shocked on the way here. Seeing Ning Yu's embarrassed face, Yi Lin probably guessed what Ning Yu was thinking, but without revealing it, she changed the subject. Where do your parents live? Hating City. Huh, Yi Lin heard this and said, don't you want to secretly kill Li Chang'e and then settle there? What? Xiao Chuer stared at Ning Yu with murderous intent. No way, Hating City is an international metropolis. Although I, Ning Yu, are not as popular as Li Chang'e, I still own a lot of properties across the country. What's wrong with living in Hating City? Can't I, Ning Yu, afford it? Exactly, Xiao Chuer didn't give face to Ning Yu's boast. You call that real estate? It's a mini small house with a usable area of only 63.2 square meters. I'm embarrassed to despise you. Yo. These two people understand each other very well. Yi Lin raised his eyebrows and seemed to understand. After briefly reminiscing about old times, Yi Lin asked about what happened after the version update. After all, he was deep in the snowy mountains, isolated from the world. The only source of information is the Apostle Forum. But with the current level of chaos in the Apostle Forum, even if Yi Lin's mental power is extremely high, he can't get much useful information from the tens of millions of posts. It's too brain-consuming. The outside world is in chaos now. Speaking of what happened after the version update, Ning Yu frowned and said with a wry smile, too many people died. According to my estimate, at least half of the people died in this wave. Moreover, the most disturbing thing is the creepy thing is that people who died in the other world in the past would be generated into a heart attack corpse in the real world. But Ning Yu took a deep breath. No more, all the people who died are gone. In my crew, half of the people died overnight. There are no corpses. Except for our memories, there is no life in the real world after death. Leave no trace behind. It feels like it disappeared out of thin air. Yi Lin smiled inexplicably. Did you even save the time of disposing of the corpse? It seems that this time, there is no need to cover up. Ning Yu looked at Yi Lin with a strange expression. He couldn't understand why Yi Lin could still laugh at this time. According to the current death rate in preparation for the Apostle trial, more than half of the world's population will disappear overnight. It feels like there is an awesome super boss behind the scenes, and with a snap of his fingers, half of the population is gone. It's scary to think about it. In the face of this great power that transcends dimensions, human beings are so insignificant and their lives are so humble that they are not worth mentioning. The time was almost up. After a brief reminiscing about the past, Yi Lin stood up from the ground. The two little mothers followed Yi Lin yinging, following each step and describing the maids. If you want to go to Hating City, I can give you a lift. I just have to go do some errands. But now, I have to deal with the batch of supplies next door first. After Yi Lin finished speaking, without explaining much, she walked into the place where Ujoko stored supplies. In the lobby of the visitor center, Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer looked at each other. Drop by. Give me a ride. How? You can fly? Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer were filled with questions. But Yi Lin didn't say anything, and they didn't dare to ask. He watched Yi Lin's figure disappear around the corner. It wasn't until Yi Lin left that Ning Yu let out a long sigh of relief. Unconsciously, a cold sweat broke out on his back. You seem to be afraid of him. Only then did Xiao Chuer speak, her lips painted with lip gloss shining, and she asked doubtfully. Afraid, Why aren't you afraid? Ningyu whispered, pointing to the corpse not far away, whose limbs were twisted into weird shapes in the pit. Did you see that guy? Do you recognize it? The one who fought me off not long ago was called Yu or something. A second-hand player. Being used by Yilin. Ningyu made a downward movement with his palm, his pupils shrank, he was frightened, and his voice trembled. Instant kill? Ah no, to be more precise, it should be said, instant kill. Hiss. Xiao Chuer suddenly took a breath of cold air. At this moment, Xiao Chuer also felt that her hands and feet were cold, and she didn't know what to say for a moment. So, can I not be afraid? I won't be embarrassed. That was a level 4 being that could be killed instantly with one slap. Ningyu rubbed his leg, which was a little numb. What are you talking about? It seems like you have a good relationship. Right now. Yilin's voice suddenly sounded from behind the two of them. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer felt cold all over and turned their necks to their sides. They found that Yilin, who had left not long ago, had returned at some point. Ningyu almost cried. Do you walk without making any noise? He suddenly remembered that in the world of Auranos, Yilin came and went without a trace and appeared mysteriously. Yeah. Xiao Chuer and Ningyu didn't know if they had the same understanding, and they said with a smile at the same time. Let's go. Yilin smiled and scattered the 36 charged bullets that had been prepared in advance on the ground, scattered around the feet of the three of them. Hey, wait. Leave now. Ningyu suddenly remembered something. Yilin paused and looked at Ningyu. Do you have anything else? People from the crew. Ningyu was a little hesitant. Life and death matters, Xiao Chuer said in a low voice with a helpless expression. After hesitating for a moment, Ningyu nodded vigorously. Let's go then. Okay. Yilin skillfully rearranged and distributed the 36 charged bullets. Within a few seconds, the spell was completed, and the light flowed, wrapping the three of them. This is. The faint lines between the 36 light spots made Ningyu feel familiar, but he didn't recognize them for a while. Yilin had no intention of explaining, so she activated the teleportation technique, and the next second, they had disappeared from where they were. About 500 kilometers away. 1,000-year-old capital. On the street, there are figures with desperate expressions and heartbreaking crying. In the city, thick smoke billows. Some people looked crazy and were killing and looting wantonly. When the three people teleported from a distance appeared in mid-air, Yilin took the opportunity to hold them up to prevent Ningyu and Xiao Chuer from falling. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived at another city from the ancient capital of Mingzi. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer's eyes widened. When they looked down, they were suddenly suspended in mid-air. They looked at Yilin with a calm face in horror, as if they were looking at a monster. In their eyes, the abilities Yilin displayed were nothing short of miraculous. This is what humans are. Yilin said softly and took a look. His eyes were calm. He didn't stay for too long and started teleporting again. Stepping on the light, the three of them crossed the cities. Witness a new world descending into chaos. From the shock and helplessness at the beginning, to the gradual numbness later. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer suddenly understood what Yilin meant. This is human beings. The bad nature of human beings is vividly displayed at this moment when the world is undergoing drastic changes. After several transmissions, most of Yilin's psychic energy was consumed. Finally, the familiar goddess tower, the standing goddess tower, the landmark building of Hating City, once again appeared in front of Yilin. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 511. It is indeed a big city. The scene of the city is completely different from other small cities. There are many people. The population of 30 million, if reduced by half, is still tens of millions. But on the streets, all kinds of vehicles are like scrap metal, lying on the street without a driver. A lot of the Skitran tracks were damaged, and fireworks were set off everywhere in the city, like a holiday celebration. There were many apostles in strange costumes, looking crazy, crying and laughing, fighting with the people around them. Strong resentment filled the sky over hating city. Yilin's heart moved. His face collided with that lump of resentment that seemed to be substantial. 10 minutes later, the progress bar of resentment skyrocketed, and within a moment, it was full. Never expected that. Grudge, the last time I upgraded, it was because Auranos cursed me before leaving, and the progress bar was filled up. This time, the resentment that permeates hating city is far inferior to Uranos in terms of quality and taste. But quantity is better than quantity. After the progress bar of resentment was full, Yilin scratched at the cool feeling on her forehead. There are no other changes except that the area of dead skin has slightly expanded. It seems that if resentment wants to evolve its next ability, simply advancing the progress bar won't do it. Yilin recalled the last time in the world of Auranos when resentment evolved. Extreme emotions. Yes. At first, Yilin burst into intense anger because of the death of Aden and others. The surging anger disappeared in an instant, presumably being absorbed by grudge. After thinking for a moment, Yilin fell to the ground without thinking too much. Ningyu and Xiaochuer had already become numb in the sight of cities. The chaos around them did not make them show too much shock except for raising their eyelids slightly. Be careful, I'll go take care of things. Yilin smiled and glanced at Ningyu and Xiaochuer. After a moment of silence, Ningyu nodded, okay, contact me later. No problem. Ningyu breathed a sigh of relief and pulled Xiaochuer away quickly. Presumably, he was also worried about his parents and went to find them. After bidding farewell to Ningyu and Xiaochuer, the crazy couple, Yilin walked alone on the messy streets. Yilin was very familiar with this smell. Chaos, disorder, despair, lamentation. Disaster is like the dampness left after heavy rain, which is devastated and wet all over the ground. Perception was released, and everything around him was revealed under Yilin's perception. A moment later, Yilin opened her eyes and said to herself, most people are hiding, and obviously only a small part of them are going crazy. Whether it is the disappearance of relatives and friends, or the cruel experience in the trial, after the version is updated, the first batch of surviving apostles will be unable to accept the new world for a while and fall into self-destructive madness. Comparing her feelings with her own, Yilin could understand this feeling. If the person he cares about suddenly disappears for such a ridiculous reason, he may become like the crazy people around him, venting his despair and making others as desperate as him. Human beings are actually very emotional creatures. Many times, they cannot be fully explained by logic. A man with a gun, covered in blood and with crazy eyes, quietly walked out of the tall building and came behind Yilin. Boom! But he was still dozens of meters away from Yilin, and just as he was about to raise his gun and aim, he was knocked into the wall by an invisible force, and in the blink of an eye he was out of breath. Get chaos value at 75. There was no relic box, and Yilin didn't bother to check the corpse not far away. As Yilin strolled around the courtyard, from time to time there would be some unsighted people who, for various reasons, wanted to do something to Yilin, who seemed harmless to humans and animals, but Yilin easily stopped. Although Yilin had no intention of actively killing people, if he was passive, then he couldn't be blamed. Hope everyone is okay. Boom! There was an explosion on the street hundreds of meters away. Yilin originally didn't want to pay attention to it, but when he habitually let out thoughts to sense what was happening over there, his eyebrows froze, and then he let out a chuckle, floated up, stepped over the tall building, and floated in the direction of the explosion. Go. Crap. Do you really think that my fat master is a vegetarian? Li Erpang's body was glistening with fat, like sweat and an indestructible layer of grease, moving and dodging in the hail of bullets. The fighting between the two parties was extremely fierce. Behind Li Erpang, about dozens of bodyguards wearing black suits and sunglasses with serious expressions were hiding behind bunkers. Some carried bulletproof shields and some carried guns, exchanging fire with some people in the building. Suzayasu, who was behind Li Erpang, blushed slightly after hearing Li Erpang make a flirtatious comment, but didn't say much. "Master, be careful. The firepower from the other side is too fierce. In the building, someone would pop up from time to time and fire cold shots in the direction of Li Erpang and others. Suppress with fire first. Try to save your spiritual energy points, and then fight them off after you get in. Damn it, it's just a small stronghold. If I can't do it, my fat man can't take it down. Call out." A grenade was thrown from the window of the building and directly towards Li Erpang. Li Erpang stared hard. Suzayasu smiled sweetly and stood in front of Li Erpang without saying a word. The expected explosion did not occur. The parabola of the grenade changed strangely in mid-air. It hovered in mid-air for a moment in front of Li Erpang, then suddenly turned back and accurately penetrated through the gap in the window. Boom! Ah 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 ah! After the explosion, bursts of screams came from inside, and then disappeared. "Sister Su, what kind of skill do you have?" Li Erpang saw that Suzayasu just stood there and pushed the grenade back. He didn't know what he thought of, and his face changed drastically with fear, and his whole body trembled. "Huh? It's not me." Suzayasu looked confused. "Hi, long time no see." Yulin sat cross-legged in mid-air, smiling and waving to Li Erpang and his wife who had reunited after a long separation. Li Erpang and Suzayasu raised their heads at the same time. When they saw Yulin, both of them had a moment of surprise and astonishment on their expressions. They didn't expect that they would meet Yulin by chance in Hating City at this time today. The other side has come for reinforcements. The attackers are not malicious, kill them first and then talk. The astonishment of Li Erpang and Suzayasu did not stop the firepower in the building. Go, who was struggling to resist the firepower in the building, seemed to have misunderstood something. He turned the gun head and bullets poured out towards Yulin, who was sitting cross-legged in the air and pretending to be cool. Yulin was a little unhappy. He stretched out his hand, and bullets hovered 1 meter away in front of him, unable to make any further progress. The hovering bullets were so densely packed that they looked like a honeycomb, looking weird and unusual. This magical scene made the fat man's bodyguard in black clothes and sunglasses involuntarily stop his movements and look up at the man who suddenly appeared in the sky and showed off his miracles. "Want to help?" Yulin controlled all the bullets with one hand, raised his eyebrows, and asked lightly. Li Erpang was anxious. "If you want to help, hurry up. Don't show off." "Okay. It's easy anyway." Yulin took a deep breath, and the bullets rebounded one after another. I saw Yulin rising up into the sky. Her figure was like a god, her hair was windless and she was facing the 4-story building, and she clapped her hands together. Rumble, rumble. In an instant. It was as if there was an invisible giant hand squeezing the sides of the building towards the middle. On the surface of the building, cracks spread rapidly and collapsed. A few seconds later, half of the building was flattened alive in front of Li Erpang and Suzayasu. A moment later. The world is quiet. Get chaos value add 45. Get chaos value add 51. Yulin gradually got used to the feeling of being overwhelmed by the chaos value. Numb. Li Erpang was dumbfounded. Yulin's forehead wouldn't sweat, but he still subconsciously picked at the dead skin on his forehead, dropped it to the ground, and breathed slowly. Li Erpang finally came to his senses and said in surprise, "Are you still a human?" "Yeah, why not?" Yulin said it as a matter of course, but he suddenly remembered his bloodline and added, "At least, most of them are still." Li Erpang. Suzayasu looked at Yulin, thank you. At this time, a bodyguard seemed to recognize Yulin, his expression changed, and he cautiously walked to Li Erpang, young master, he is. Li Erpang waved his hand, it's okay, we have a lifelong friendship. I must be wanted. Yulin asked with a smile. I have convinced you, but you still dare to bubble up. Do you know how big a trap you have made? Li Erpang had just finished speaking, and he inadvertently looked at the building that Yulin slapped on the spot with both hands. The flattened building, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, that's not right, you really have nothing to dare. Li Erpang recalled what Yulin had done casually, and suddenly understood how Yulin had killed Emperor Zuchong under the siege of 4 emperors. While he was shocked, he was also puzzled. Obviously everyone was of similar strength in Gotham City back then and could still fight with each other, but there was no defense at all. Why did this kid suddenly become so awesome? It's unscientific. No reason. After receiving instructions from Li Erpang, the bodyguards in black clothes and sunglasses quickly approached the crushed building to check if there were any survivors. But it was probably gone. The building was shrunk by half. They couldn't even get in without using violence, let alone the people inside. How miserable. The black-clad bodyguards silently observed half a second of silence for the poor thugs who died under such cruel methods. While the bodyguards in black were cleaning the battlefield, Yulin chatted with Li Erpang and his wife. Li Erpang introduced the bodyguard in black behind him with a stern expression. Those are the elite of their Li family. Shen's army. Why do you seem to have shrunk? Are you injured? While chatting, Yulin looked at Suzayasu and wondered if it had been too long since they last met. Although it was not obvious, he always felt that Suzayasu's size seemed to have shrunk. Aha! Sister Su has shrunk? Has it happened? Li Erpang was stunned and scratched his head. Why can't even I feel that Sister Su has shrunk or not, but you can see it? Suzayasu smiled and did not answer, but asked, you can eat it? Eat it. Yulin nodded, there are only apple cores left. Can I plant them? I don't know about this. Suzayasu shook her head, her expression not looking like she was lying. The conversation between the two made Li Erpang beside him confused. He kept scratching his head and felt his scalp was itchy. Why can't you understand the conversation between Sister Su and this guy? Who are they? Yulin didn't want to dwell on this topic for too long in front of Li Erpang, so she changed the topic and pointed at the thugs who were crushed into meat patties in the building and asked. They are. Li Erpang was about to say something, but at this moment, he narrowed his eyes hard, his eyes were deep and mysterious, shook his head, and whispered, it is not suitable to stay here for a long time, the city is not peaceful now, let's go back, and there are complicated informants around. If their people see you here. Good. Before Li Erpang finished speaking, Yulin already understood what the little fat man meant.